If I asked you guys if you wanted to play some Capture the Shell, or 1v1 me on Survival Ball, or hit some Get 5 balloons, you'd look at me like I'm a weirdo and think I'm coming up with stuff. But no, these are actual game modes in Sonic Racing games that no one ever talks about on YouTube. And for good reason. Most of these are multiplayer exclusive, and is anyone really going to get their friends to play Vampire Race with them? Well, luckily I have a friend actually willing to do that with me. I forced him to play all these obscure game modes of varying quality. So in return I want you all to subscribe to his channel, Badkuip. He deserves it for all the suffering I made him go through. He said that if he gets 100 subscribers, he'll upload a video. So just subscribe to his channel, come on, it's not that hard. And maybe subscribe to me as well, like, I make pretty cool videos. Okay, enough yapping. Let's start talking about these game modes, starting with Sonic R. This game is known for its very open maps with a lot of different routes, which these game modes take advantage of. Upon choosing time attack on the menu, we have 4 different juicy options, but we're skipping the normal time attack because that's our racing game staple. However, there's the reverse time attack as well, which is a dream come true for me. I always wanted there to be a game mode in Mario Kart where you race through the tracks backwards, but there never was. So when I saw Sonic R had me covered, I was so excited, but it wasn't that cool. Yeah, for some reason I really hyped up driving tracks in reverse to be the coolest thing ever in the entire universe when I was a kid, but in reality it's just kinda neat. I still wish more racing games did this though, it's just a cool way to add extra content. Right next to it is the Get 5 balloons, which makes me wonder why racing games seem so obsessed with balloons, but I guess they're pretty cool. Here we just have to find 5 balloons throughout the map as quickly as possible, which you can also do in multiplayer. This is really where the game excels, because these maps are all basically their own little open worlds. It felt natural to run around and look for stuff without the pressure of having to finish laps. Back to single player, we have a mode that is literally just the game tag. Yeah, that game where you run around and chase each other. You as the player have to tag 4 NPCs as quickly as possible, and that's the game mode. The existence of it is more interesting than the mode itself, but I appreciate them trying to add more content to this game though, because it's already short. But I think it's about time to move on to another Sonic Racing game, Sonic Riders, which is something completely different. A lot of people say this game is really complicated, so I expected to have to take an entire course on how to play Sonic Riders, but I already understood the basics after a few races. Maybe that's just because I'm so Sonic built from watching thousands of videos on YouTube about him, but my friend was also able to understand it and even beat me once when I had much more experience, and we actually really enjoyed it as well. We did like 10 races before we actually started doing the modes. Maybe one day I should make a video explaining how to play this game to make it easier to get into. Let me know if you guys want that. Okay, enough yapping. Let's talk about the different modes. Most people know that this game has a story mode, but right under there's the tag mode. No, this isn't like Sonic R where you actually play tag. This is just a race where you have to work together against another team. In this game you have an air meter, which is basically the fuel for your vehicle, which you can refill throughout the race. And it allows you to boost and drift, but doing those makes it run out faster. If you run out, you have to continue on foot, which is slower. Well, in this mode this air meter is shared, so you have to consider your teammate when boosting and stuff. And it's also important to stay close together, because if you go too far away from each other, the game will penalize you by shocking you. But then there's the survival mode. It's actually divided into 2 entirely different game modes. The race stakes is about grabbing this emerald and being the first to go through 5 gates. But while holding the emerald, your air meter depletes way quicker. And when it's empty, you lose the emerald, so someone else can grab it. Pretty interesting. Then there's the battle stage, which is this game's own battle mode, but it's pretty unique compared to other racing games. You don't use items to hit each other. Instead, you boost into each other to take a life. There are still items though, like the shield, which gives you an extra life basically, and speed, which increases your speed. Yeah, you get it. You can also upgrade your air meter and get this attack power up, which I was really confused about, but apparently it makes your boost last longer and stuns opponents if you get it. This stuff isn't well documented, so I'm not really sure. It surely is complicated though, which is fitting for this game. But that's that's not all. By beating the story mode, you unlock these sets of missions, and there are 100 of them. They're split into 3 sets: Storms missions, Waves missions, and Jets missions. I don't have Jets missions unlocked though, as that requires you to do all the 70 missions from the other 2 sets. What the fuck? And I do want to release this video at some point, so I didn't do all of that. The missions themselves are things like do a certain amount of tricks, destroy a certain amount of cars, collect junk. Yeah, literally picking up junk from the track. Gotta think about the environment of the Sonic universe. Waves missions are basically the same thing, but more difficult. And there are bombs on the track. From what I gathered, Storm and Wave are getting these missions from Jet. So you are here to do it before them, because them, I guess. Like, how is cleaning up junk before they do supposed to stop them? Sonic and his friends are just being assholes here, trying to do better than the Babylon rogues. Dickheads. Let's move on to the more controversial Sonic Riders Zero Gravity. Unlike Sonic Riders, you can't boost or drift in this game anymore. The 2 main mechanics got swapped out for 2 much more situational mechanics. A bigger boost and a bigger drift. You can only use the boost in long straight lines, and the drift only on hairpin turns, while in Sonic Riders you could use them anywhere. So this makes Zero Gravity a lot more boring. But that, we're here for the game modes, which are pretty interesting actually. Selecting Survival mode shows us 3 more modes ready to be explored, starting with Survival Relay, which is a multiplayer mode where you each do 1 lap and switch in between them. And that's it. Okay, that wasn't that interesting, but Survival Ball is. It's basically Rocket League in Sonic Riders. You hit balls into rings. We didn't get it at first because we didn't realize we had to use the drift mechanic to aim the ball. And of course there is a battle mode as well, much simpler this time. You have 3 lives and just aim rockets at each other with that drift mechanic again. But there's one more mode that is actually hidden because I had a hard time finding it. After you beat a level in the story mode and go back to it, you get a list of missions as well. Reaching the goal on time, collecting rings. No collecting junk though, that's a bummer. Speaking of junk, Sonic Free Ride. No, I'm kidding, because holy this is actually a hidden gem. This game is notorious for its horrible controls, as you have to use this old thing, the Kinect. A device allowing you to control games with your body, which is pretty unreliable, especially in this game. You're expected to bend your whole body and do all sorts of crazy moves, when it just doesn't work. Or at least that's what I've heard from all these YouTubers. Unfortunately, I do not have an Xbox 360 or Kinect, so we had to play this fan-made no Kinect mod, and I really enjoyed it. It's not as good as the original Riders, but the gameplay was so much closer to it than Zero Gravity, bringing back boosting and more complicated tricking. So yeah, I guess we didn't really play these modes in the official way, but this was probably the best way to experience them anyway. And it was our only option that doesn't cost a parky. We first tried Ring Collection, which is exactly as it sounds. Some rings you had to do tricks for, others made you stake out your hand, which in this mod is possible with the right stick. Then there was Damage Survival, which is all about inflicting pain. So whoever hits the most people with items wins. This game also brings back some stuff from previous games, like Tag Mode from Sonic Riders, which functions basically the same here, but with a little extra spice. In the middle of each lap, you are forced to hold each other's hands like this, and with that connect you actually had to do that position for real. But unfortunately, Badkuip and I didn't get to do that. Relay Race from Zero Gravity also returns in this game, but we couldn't get it to work. Whatever we did, we couldn't switch players. I imagine you'd have to physically switch in front of the Kinect, but once again we couldn't do that. Interestingly, within the same year we also got a Sonic Racing game with a completely different genre, Sonic and SEGA All-Stars Racing. It was a pretty popular game. Even Jesse Pinkman has played this game, but even it has game modes that no one ever talks about. These were the kind of modes you try once and then just go back to racing. Stuff like the battle mode. You're surrounded by apples for some reason, which are your lives, and you have an infinite amount of KO gloves in your inventory. You can get some items, but just spamming the KO glove is the most effective. And there are no NPCs, it's just you and your friends. Same goes for the next mode, which is basically just a capture the flag where you bring it from one point to another, but with chows instead of flags. This was a little more fun though, because we kept hitting each other, which makes you lose the chow. And the zone we had to get the chow to was a straight line each time, which made it basically impossible to dodge attacks. A pretty similar one was Grab, where the 7 Chaos Emeralds are put throughout the map, and you have to grab them and hold them as long as possible, but getting hit once makes you drop all of them. Then there's King of the Hill, where you stand in the zone for as long as possible, but your score stops going up if your opponent is in there too, so you have to shoot them with your items, which have knockback in this mode. Most of the time the zone was in a corner though, which made it way too hard to knock each other out of it. Finally we have knockout, which puts us back on the racetrack, and each 20 seconds just eliminates the player in last place. And this game mode is so underrated. You really have to play at your best, and it keeps getting more intense as you progress. And that's basically it for the multiplayer. But none of those compare to the mission mode. Now this one isn't as forgotten as I've seen some people mention it on YouTube, but it deserves even more attention because going through these is so much fun. From dodging bots to killing a giant zombie, there's lots of variety, and even the knockout mode makes a return here. Speaking of mission modes, let's talk about Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transforms World Tour. Unfortunately not as varied as Sonic and SEGA All-Stars Racing's mission mode. Jesus, these names are way too long. World Tour has 10 different set modes instead, one of which is just a race, but the others are more interesting, like Pursuit. You have to chase a tank while dodging his projectiles and shoot him with an exclusive item. Yeah, this rocket isn't anywhere else in the game besides this specific game mode, which just makes me my autistic pants. The existence of this rocket item is so interesting to me, like I thought I knew every item in the game, but bam, there's another one. Hidden inside an obscure game mode. But enough about items. Let's get back to the mission types with versus. This one has you 1v1ing a character, and you have to make sure you're in front of them when the timer runs out. Or you can wreck them so hard by getting a big enough lead to win as well. Next up are 3 challenge modes, starting with the drift challenge, in which you have to make it to the end within a really short time, but by drifting along these arrows the timer increases. Secondly, there's the boost challenge, which is the same idea as the last challenge, but the timer pauses when you boost. So you gotta be tricking, drifting, and hitting this shitload of boost pads on the track the entire time. And thirdly, there's a traffic challenge, in which you have to make it through the track while dodging traffic. There are blue cars who drive normally, yellow cars who keep going from left to right, and asshole red cars who follow your movement and are really hard to dodge. Thankfully, people don't drive this badly in real life. Another fun one is the ring race, where you just have to fly rings! The interesting thing about this is that you explore parts of courses you usually don't see. There's also the sprint game mode, which is just a time trial, but it's motherfucking difficult. At least if you beat the entire game on expert. Another more boring one is the boost race, which is just a race without items and boost pads all over the place. And lastly, for World Tour, we've got Battle Race, which is a race where you can kill each other. Yay! Each player has 3 lives, and you lose one each time you get hit with an item. But there's another set of modes no one ever touches, that being the multiplayer, which besides normal races also has Battle Race and Boost Race as an option, which works the same as in World Tour but with actual other players. But there's also a standard battle mode, which has a bunch of arena maps you usually don't get to see. But the mode itself is pretty mid. You just shoot items at each other and there are no CPUs. Ain't no way you're gonna find people online who want to play this battle mode with you, so you'll likely be stuck with like 2 players. Capture the Shell on the other hand was pretty fun with just 2 people. It's silly because you just keep stealing the chow from each other, but it's actually pretty well balanced. Whenever you have the chow you're much slower and you can steal it by running into each other. So this was actually pretty fun. That leads us to the most recent Sonic Racing game as of today, Team Sonic Racing. Similarly to the last game's World Tour, we've got the team adventure with some unique modes, like survival mode. It's in the same vein as Knockout from Sonic and SEGA All-Stars Racing, but instead of 1 player dying each 30 seconds, 3 players get eliminated each lap. And since this is a game about working together, one of your AI teammates could be eliminated, which you barely have control over. They just decide to suck sometimes. Cool idea, but it's just kind of annoying. A game mode I do like a lot is Daredevil. You have to drive through as many gates as you can within a time limit, but not just gates. Gates with a pole in the middle. The closer to the pole you drive through it, the higher higher the score you'll get. And there's a yellow and red side. The red side gives you a score multiplier as well, but most of the time it's the more difficult side. You can also drift for extra points, but just pressing the drift button for 1 millisecond in the gate is enough for the bonus, which is kind of cheesing, but it still feels satisfying to do. The ring challenge has a similar vibe, as it requires driving into stuff, but this time, rings. The time limit is much stricter though, but you can increase it by drifting while connecting the rings. There's also the game mode destruction, which sounds much more dramatic than it actually is. You just have to destroy some targets by either running into them or shooting them with a rocket. Drifting while doing all of this gives you bonus points again, and hitting them with a rocket is more beneficial as it gives you a multiplier. This game also has its own car dodging mode called Traffic Attack, and it works exactly as it did in Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transform. But another mode that takes inspiration from another game is Egg Pawn Assault, that game being Cars 2. You gain points by destroying egg pawns, but there being 4 different types. There's a standard type, which is just a useless boring brick that only gives 50 points, one that has spikes and hurts you if you get close to it, but does give a 100 points, one that throws bombs occasionally but also gives 100 points, and one you have to hit twice to kill, which gives 150 points. Decent game modes, but not as cool as Cars 2. There you have a car that explodes and kills more cars around it. That's just way cooler. Lastly, there's Showdown Race, which you don't unlock until the last chapter, but it's not really that interesting. You just race against a team of 9, most of which consist of egg pawns, which you can temporarily eliminate by hitting one of them with an item or running into them. It sounds like it would be more difficult, but these just never seem to team ultimate, so this is mostly just an easier race. And that's all for the team adventure mode. But we're not done yet, because there are some more online exclusive modes. Starting with Rocket Race, which is just a normal race, but all the items are rockets. And there's the Boost Race, which is also just a normal race, but all the items are boosts. Bro, this just makes it more boring than a normal race. Okay, the lightning race is slightly more interesting actually. There's a timer at the top which determines when the lightning will strike. But you have the special version of this invincibility item in your inventory. Usually you activate it once and it runs out on its own, but with this one, when you let go of the button, it stops. So all you need to do is briefly hold it when the lightning strikes. And this means there are no other items available in the race. Capsules just refill the bar, which means this is basically a no item race with an extra step. Luckily, the next game mode is a little better. King of the Hill Race. Instead of being in first at the end of 3 laps, the goal is to stay in first with your team for a certain amount of time. I have to say this does make a lot of sense with the teamwork gimmick. It's a bit of variety that doesn't hurt the experience. There's just one more mode that we have to talk about, going by the name of Vampire Race. Now that sounds intriguing. Vampire Race. What do vampires have to do with Sonic? Or racing? Well, unfortunately, the name is the most interesting part. Its main gimmick is the ability to suck rings out of opponents with the Void item. The problem is that the rings were never a big factor to begin with in this game. They just make you slightly faster. Also, the only items available are the Void and the Rocket. So this is basically another mode that is just a more boring race. So yeah, not all these modes were winners, but they were interesting to talk about. And there were some hidden gems in there. Comment down below which of these you knew about. But there are so many more things I could cover about these racing games, like forgotten tracks or just even entire forgotten games. So let me know in the comments if you guys want to see that. And while you're down there, you may as well hit that like button. Come on, it's begging you. And don't forget the subscribe button too. It wants some attention as well. Once again, thank you to Badkuip for helping me. Definitely subscribe to him. He deserves it, and I'll see you in the next video. Doei!